Something I've been thinking about the past week is IQ, because I've been listening to some podcasts that mention it, or some videos online, and I guess errand videos, and just the way people posture their IQ, or using IQ to base your reality, which isn't really taught or encouraged, and I think it's interesting to get to this point, and I think I could only kind of open myself to this point after I got over ironic or overt or just the way that people joke about racism or are literally racist, when I kind of stopped caring through the exposure of like alt-right Twitter, or I'm not sure what it is, like a bunch of Twitter that there's different factors of Twitter where I guess it's just white ethnicities or white Americans, and from a political standpoint they want to protect themselves, or they have anime avatars. They're just different versions, and I don't know if I just got numbed because I related too much to the hologram universe theory, so I kind of just think to myself, like, hey, that's not real, or general fatigue of getting angry and the wrong things going out of proportion, and the right things not being paid attention to, which I could explain, but that's not the point of this. It's just I got to a state where I've listened to a lot of conservative type of podcasts and information, and sometimes they vaguely or subtly point towards subtly, like there's some submersive podcast episode where they kind of talk about IQ, and it has to do with race, but I don't think they say it outright, right? But yeah, I've been thinking about IQ, and also how IQ plays with status, and this is also something that I know I've been aware of all my life without knowing why, and that's why I have had harder times in choosing what to do or being slow at it, because I realize that the importance of each step, and I've always kind of been in between this perception of class or status, because I've been born in a poor family, but I've gone to well-off school districts, as well as kind of average school districts, and I've been situated with different people of different types of backgrounds, and I just have the personality of someone that's different from their race. So I've never been able to fit into a stereotype, and I've always been on that brink of maybe I can get to a different class or a different status, because I can definitely blend in. It's just a matter of the credentials, because I don't have the access to the connections. So I would have to actually complete a degree and maybe marry into it. I realized that basically I think the three advantages people have are either their natural IQ, their appearance, or their ability to be social. And my appearance, I would say I'm a little above average. If I work hard, I could be probably like a 9. My intellect, I would say, I just feel like I'm average in intellect. It really depends on the environment, I guess. I mean, compared to my mom, I'm like a genius. But I just don't have the confidence to say I'm that's smart, because I also don't have the interest or the initiative in some things that like average people can do. Like I'd rather have a document processing job than a like calling interactive job. And maybe that has more to do with socializing than actual intellect, but I'm also just aware of the midwit phenomena, and I think men are mostly susceptible to being midwits. Um, I think they just like to show off, and to show off they pretend they're smarter than they are. So I'm curious if, I kind of think one thing I might give myself is I'm smarter than midwits just because I know I'm not that smart. So I'm not a midwit. I just interact or engage with knowledge, and feel free to let it like pass by my brain, like in and out the ears. And if something stays, it stays. I'm not looking to be an expert. I'm not looking to teach anyone. I'm kind of processing all the information to form my own reality, and not to fight for one anymore. And I think it would just be so much easier if we could honestly talk about IQs, which most, this isn't revolutionary information. It's just myself coming to this terms of the lies that are told and are able to continue, and the hurt. And I just feel pain now when I look online and I see all these videos of people saying they're lost, especially when they're like 18-year-old women, or like 18 to 25, and they just finished high school, or they just finished college, or they dropped out, and they're kind of like, all their videos are about being lost, and all the comments are agreeing, and everyone thinks it's just a normal like mental health crisis, and they blame social media or something about a generational trend, and nobody thinks they are just going against their IQ or natural instincts, or there was, we used to be normal. We used to cater to our humanness, and now we don't cater to our humanness. And they only talk about it in terms of capitalism and making money. And I just feel bad because you can't even say you are 19 and you feel lost because everyone lied, and you're not going to have a point until your mother. They won't take that well. And actually, I'll give myself a little more credit, because I think I'm just preemptively saying I'm not that smart. Because if you just say you're smart, and people are like, prove it, and I don't want to prove it, so I might as well just say I'm not smart. And I do understand like these podcasts enough to comprehend it. It's just I can't repeat it verbatim, or like I've heard it enough that it is uh, it's not that new. It's not that the information is new. It's just I don't bother remembering it, or as if I'm teaching it. So I think that's why the information can come in my mind and leave it easily. When I don't keep track of the references as hard, I don't keep track of the people as much. And I just question the merits of smartness sometimes, because maybe it's just because these are public. I mean, they're intellectual podcasts. I was going to say public intellectual podcasts, but I guess a mixture. And seeing more people engage in this way, and I guess I get the perception that, okay, smartness is used for conversation and thinking of problems in this dreaded way. Like, they kind of talk about solutions, but it is so in the atmosphere of decline in like ideology, and like why, and who, and it doesn't feel forward. Like, maybe they find the answers years ahead, but maybe there's just not enough action. Something about it feels like, okay, so smartness is people talking to each other in these secret podcast, and it's just always discussion, and I want a smartness that is more physical and immediate and not just constant dissection and analysis. So when people pride themselves on being smart or say that there should be just like a smart world, only smart people should exist, and I just think of like the smart people that I come across and how it's just like constantly regurgitating the same conversations. And I would need more value in that. And I've been interested in sociology for a long while. I think I kind of got into it through the concept of positive thinking and the way people complete goals. And I think when you get into that, it just becomes addictive to know why, and you want to game the system because you think about human characteristics and human nature and how you can adjust and survive better, just like incels or red pill society or whoever, constantly going by dating metrics and trying to looks max to game the system, to game life. Life is a game, and we view these goals as like gaining more points, more ammo. And I think when you look too closely and microscope into things too closely, at least for me, I found myself getting trapped because it feels like, oh, this is the secret, and so this means it's the most real because this is like why we're doing it. This is the mechanics of it. And I think there's something dangerous about knowing how the sausage is made to this point of I get bored of surface level things because there's always, I know there's something more stimulating and more true and something happening that we're not even thinking about. And sometimes that can feel like a threat. So you want to get closer, but then you just get lost in this maze and you can't take it for what it is. And even if you game the system as like an intel, red pillar, or whatever, it's like, can you even enjoy that? Because if you get the woman, the hot woman, you know it's because you adjusted yourself so much, or there were certain rules, so it completely sucks the whole romance out of it. And this idea that like men love harder and truer, that they pride themselves in while they're addicted to graphs, it just doesn't feel like it could ever be a win then. There's no God, there's no chance, there's no secret. You need secrets. You need secrets in the world. And this video recording is kind of choppy because I keep recording a little bit and leaving. Well, I did it twice. This is the third time. But yes, there's a need for secrets because I think intimacy is related to not only honesty but also secrets and the miracle and magic of yourself. And how can there be intimacy if you think there's an answer for everything and you can't look at a face without mentally verifying the distance and the distance between features and the prominence, or however faces are graded in this technical manner, when actually I think it's been proven that the most attractive faces can have maybe every feature is the technical attractiveness, but if there's one feature that stands out because that is a little odd, like maybe a nose that's a little bigger than normal, because it's odd, people fixate on it more because they're thinking like, oh, if that feature was just smaller, then they would be perfect. But with it being so noticeable, it is actually more beautiful. Porn is criticized a lot because it dehumanizes women. And I think we dehumanize ourselves in other ways, but because they're not sexual, it's overlooked. And one way we dehumanize ourselves is through these reports. And I don't know if it matters if they're true or empirical or whatever you want to call them or not. But even on social media, I've noticed that for the most part, I don't have a blank opinion on anyone. I don't, if I see strangers, if I see avatars, like, I'm already set with the underlying opinion that this person is also opinionated and they think they're right and they're on a defense. There's already a kind of attitude I give them because we are all products of the internet. So we're all in this kind of atmosphere. And that's how I feel like I've learned to dehumanize people, because maybe the pattern recognition, the behaviors I know that are created online, everyone just seems kind of uptight or ego driven, and not in like a manic narcissistic way, but I just think in a defensive way, like there's a type of threat we feel online that also has to do with survival, and it's the survival of reputation or something, the survival of the avatar. And because I've been online for so long, I kind of take that atmosphere and maybe I just live in it fully. There is no separation between physical and online for me anymore. I think if you more consciously split time or haven't been online as long, or use maybe older people with Facebook don't feel this way, but there's like a sense of dread that I've learned online that I bring into real life or stays with me when I'm trying to focus on physical tasks and just doing my job. And maybe it's just the fear winning, even though I practice every day not to take things too seriously or to understand that I'm mostly reading the analysis and discussions on what's going to happen in the future. It's not always present, and it's not always related to me. And even if it's true, there's not much I can do. I can just do my little bits of action. I really don't like that atmosphere that concludes every year gets worse. And it's like there's a BetterHelp ad I think about where it's some woman in Europe, and she's saying, I have a therapist that lives in Montana because the world is very much on hellfire, and I just hate these ways we set up a constant description of life as being the worst. And this is such a millennial thing of saying every year gets worse. And the last few years have been hard, but I think we do ourselves a disservice, and it's not complaint out of honesty, but a kind of emotional trend. Just like people identifying with anxiety. It feels like a spell. And I think that's all I have to say for that. And going back to smartness, just the idea and the addiction to insight, the search for wisdom, the loyalty to knowledge, and it feels so good when you find something you resonate with, when you read something you resonate with. But once again, like spending hours on some Twitters that have advice, and the actual percentage of you remembering that advice and implementing it correctly and at the right time, and not honoring yourself, thinking, I can live my life for me, and that will curate my own wisdom and my own lessons learned, and disrespecting yourself by staying inside or staying in your head in order to collect all the tools, all the cheat codes, all the insight to take from the elders. To an extent, that's good when you learn from people outside yourself, especially if they're older. But it can be a lot, and it can be kind of enabling those people as well. I think some of these people that think they're teachers just need to take a break because they have formed a monetary platform on it, and I can just see them almost getting bored and then making up something to talk about. And I considered the hobby of agreeing and disagreeing, and it's just getting online and I mean, I guess you can call it a circle jerk, but they get online and someone says something and it's just like, I agree, well, I disagree, and I get that sometimes that is a fulfilling way to socialize, because I also like that. That's one side of school that I think I'm good at, is when we read something or we have to basically discussion posts, and I think Twitter is good for that. There is a spark of joy, like that is a hobby, but I also think it can be a waste of time and emotion, especially if you're older and you already have personal relationships you should be nurturing. Like, if you already have a family, I just don't understand why you would consistently be on Twitter to discuss things that are controversial just because you want to be that person that talks about things that other people don't talk about, like the liberals don't talk about or whatever. I just think how the average person has maybe 80 years to live, and the world and the country can't be solved in that time. Not only because, well, maybe it literally could be solved in that time, it just won't be because people get in the way. And that is the game. And by people, I mean like the elite and their weird bloodlines, and they win the game. I mean, they're not going to win the game forever. I believe it'll be over in my lifetime. But the point is, your finite amount of lifetime, and you really think that you are going to win a debate in the midst of millions and millions of people. Even if you have 10,000 Twitter followers, like that's nothing. That's nothing compared to all the people you won't know. To consistently repeat the same things, or to talk about, or to debate certain topics. To even log in is insanity. It's better to sit in silence and pray. Really, that would be a better use of time, is just to sit in silence and play with your emotions by conjuring the feeling of joy out of nothing, instead of always logging on to get in a battle and to be a winner, because that's what everyone wants to be, is to defend their ego. I think out of all the terms and things that I've considered in my spirituality journey and stuff like that. Like, I've never thought about the ego a lot. It has never interested me. Like, I've understood the concept of shadow work, and I've attempted to do that, and I think for the most part I've done that, but something about the ego I've always ignored. Like, I'd rather learn about chakras or crystals or twin flames, everything but the ego. And I don't know why. I feel like I don't have much of an ego. And the days when I have my most ego are the days where I'm kind of thinking the worst. I think my ego kicks in when it knows that I need a push to survive. My ego comes in and it says, like, okay, we need money. And I need to make you scared. And I need to make you, like, prioritize this. So today we're going to be a real person. And we're gonna need this. And we're going to be scared. So you can work harder. And then the whole day I'm, like, freaking out. And then I get home and or something calms me down. And I'm like, oh yeah, like, this isn't real. And, like, calm down and get into the feeling instead of, get into the state instead of thinking that you're gonna push things together by force. You have to open yourself up for it. So that's how my ego and whatever else go back and forth. It's very up and down. It's very, I don't want to say a split personality, but I think I have, like, a fractal mind. It's neither here nor there. I don't have much to say about that. It's something I still think about. And just, like, and I feel like personality these days is just, or maybe as you get older, your personality is just the style in which you talk about problems or have humor. Like, I don't know if I don't feel boring, but I don't feel interesting. I just feel like I have problems that to solve. I have things to remember, and that's it. I'm trying to remember how I talked as a teenager or a kid. Or maybe my personality, my essence just came out with actions. And when I drew or played outside, that was me. Because these days it's more like, okay, I have to get up, go to work, I have to pay these bills, okay, this website didn't work, or I didn't hear from that person, I have to call this person, and, like, no one could sell outside. I'm sleeping all over the parking lot. So my personality becomes the way in which I tell these problems to my friends or my mom, the way in which I explain what's happening. Do I say it with humor? Do I mention it at all? Because I don't want to feel like the only things I have to talk about are the problems, which is just the forward movement of life. Maybe I should call it the solving, not the problems, because I am, like, forwardly moving into the future in which I solve them, and I think, because I'm saying that's what I have to do, or this is what's getting done, what happened, and how I'm reacting to it. Is there a way to explain problems without using the word problem? I just think it's so loaded. It's not problems, it's just change. It's the forward movement. But it also, like, gives nothing. Like, I have to pay this bill, and I pay it, and then that's that's it. There's nothing there. And that deadness makes me feel like my personality is dead because I'm living to keep my life on track. It's like, it's not just working to pay rent, but it's like living to be the personality, except for I don't have time to be the personality. Or maybe I'm not interested in the personality. I'll have to think about that more.